And we will also be sharing this deck out after the presentation. So we will cover a lot of content today. So, feel free to take notes if you want, but otherwise know that you will get this deck as well. So to kick things off, my name is Brandon Matthews. I am a product marketing manager here at Luxury Presence. I joined the team earlier this year. My background is in digital marketing, so I've been in the space for about 12 to 13 years. Very passionate about marketing automation, branding, all of that fun stuff. So we have some exciting stuff to share with you today. I also, just on a personal note, have a 1.5-year-old and a wife and live in Southern California. So I'm super happy that you guys are joining us today, and I will pass it over to my colleague, Bally.
Hey everyone, can you hear me? Can you hear me, Brandon?
It's a little muffled, Bally.
Okay, hold on. My mic just cut out. Hey, if you want to carry on giving an introduction, I'll sort my mic out real quick.
Okay. Yep. So Bally, he is also a product marketing manager. I think he was gonna speak a little bit about he comes from the music industry, but was also a real estate agent for 6 years in the Malibu and Los Angeles area. So he brings some of that expertise from being an agent himself. So here is a quick agenda for the day. We're gonna briefly cover some 2023 trends, cover the flywheel client journey, Google business profile and content strategy. We have a few paid ad tactics and campaigns that we'll walk you guys through, and then just a couple tips on building a brand. So let's go ahead and get started here. I will definitely start this off by saying I am not a market expert, nor do I claim to be one. You guys are kind of the experts in your area. We don't have a crystal ball for 2023, but from what we're seeing in the economy, we can expect a little bit of a pullback for next year. So what we're looking at right here is a likely decline in agency productivity. So simple arithmetic shows that there have been a lot of agents coming into the space the last few years. Transactions are expected to go down in 2023. So by simple way, of doing that math, there's likely going to be fewer transactions per agent. A couple other forecasts. These are brokerage transactions. You can see here we're going to be coming off of record highs in 2021, small dip in 22 and 23 as well. Same thing with overall transactions. So expected to pull back about 10 to 12% next year. And then you guys know this as well, but home values are starting to decline ever so slightly, coming off of this wild 18% number in 2022. But one thing that we will talk about today, and obviously don't claim to be market experts, but we are well versed in marketing itself. So what we're looking at right here is actually an interesting graphic. Not sure if anyone's seen this yet. This is the S&P 500 companies during the 2008 recession. This bottom line here, these are the companies that either maintained or lowered their marketing budgets. This upper line here are the companies that actually increased their marketing budgets during the recession. And what we see here is after the recession, they captured quite a big number of market share from these other folks that decided to scale back on marketing. So I think, depending on how you look at it, this could be a great opportunity to be efficient and to take some market share in the areas that you guys are working in. And then this is a fun little slide that we added. It's kind of what we're calling the valley of disappointment. How I look at this is, if we look at it from a content perspective, we know that producing content is hard. It's a lot of times not fun, and it's very time consuming. But we also know that if you do it over the course of 6-12 months and you stay consistent with it, you will see great results. So what we have here is this linear line where we think, okay, our outputs will immediately, or our inputs will immediately match our outputs. And what happens is we get frustrated when, let's say we've been posting on social media for 3 months, or we've had a couple months in a row where we're sending email newsletters. We might not be seeing the results that we're expecting. And in there is that valley of disappointment. What actually happens is it's snowball effects. And if you keep putting in the time, you keep putting in the effort, you keep producing content, this will grow exponentially over time. So I think that's a good little segue into the flywheel and the client journey. So Bally, if you want to try to, hopefully your audio is fixed and we can
Yeah, I think we're good. Can you
yeah.
hear me now? Okay,
Yeah, I
perfect.
can hear you.
Technical difficulties. All right, thanks, Brandon, and hi everyone. That was a good little insight into that value of disappointment. Is quite interesting because in marketing we call it attribution, where I think a good example would be social media. Like, we all know social media is important, and sometimes, if you ask a client or somebody on the phone, hey, how did you find me, they might be like, oh, Google, but in reality they probably saw you on Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn, and often that last touch gets all the credit, right? But in this valley of disappointment, that social media is important, and the work done up until the point of that person picking up the phone and giving you a call, that work was done before they got to Google and decided to call you guys. And in marketing, attribution is a problem that we're always trying to solve. Every specialist is trying to solve. Who do we give, what touch point do we give credit to? And that's where the client journey and the circle, the flywheel concept really comes into effect. We're all familiar with that funnel, with the marketing funnel, right? You've seen it a million times online, the wide end of the funnel at the top, and it kind of narrows down until a person or somebody is ready to convert or buy into the product or pick up the phone and call you. That it still holds true to this day, but it's a bit outdated. And if you guys are familiar with the flywheel concept, it's a bit more modern. It captures all of the touch points that are considered important today. And using Amazon as an example, this was famously done on a napkin. I think Bezos used to do a lot of his stuff on napkins back in the day before Amazon became what it was. But Amazon has built its success on a marketing strategy around this flywheel. They called it the virtuous cycle. And that consists of a reinforcement process that starts with the customer experience and ends with the customer experience. It's very customer centric. And when this cycle gains momentum, it also powers up economies of scale, and it makes it possible for Amazon to speed up its growth to the point in which in a few years the company dominated, and it's still dominating to this day. And the flywheel, really, it's not a marketing strategy. It's more of it's a mindset. It's a way of thinking about the customer journey that's different to them coming in at the top of a funnel and ending at the bottom of a funnel. Because in reality, customers jump in and out at different times. This agent growth flywheel is our simplified version of that concept, of where a lot of agents and a lot of marketers in general, they focus their attention right at the beginning, where we want to capture somebody's attention. We call it top of the funnel. It's a lot of the work gets done here because we want people to fill up your pipeline, right? We want people to be aware of your brand and the message that you're putting out. But if marketing has one goal, really, it's to reach people at the right time, on the right channel. And different channels and at different points in this flywheel, there's different types of content and different messaging that was going to resonate with people that might get them to pull the trigger. Marketing has always sought out those moments, those touch points when consumers are open to influence. And for years, touch points have been understood through the metaphor of this funnel. So like, when people start with a number of potential brands in mind, and we could think of this at the wide end of the funnel, marketing is then directed at them, and then they methodically reduce that number and move through the funnel. And at the end, they emerge with the one brand that they choose to go with. With this agent growth flywheel, there's touch points all the way through this. And there's different strategies that are better for converting at different parts on this flywheel. And so when consumers reach a decision at the moment of purchase, the marketer's work it's just begun. And this concept is developing a knowledge of how consumers and buyers make their decisions and how they go through the client journey in the first place. Next slide. I mean, and it all begins with capturing attention, in this day and age where there's so many different channels, there's so many different inputs, phones and advertising and TV and billboards and newspapers. You have about 2, maybe 3 seconds max to capture somebody's attention. So first impressions do count more than ever. And that's where, visuals and things play a massive part, making sure that your website or the first point of interaction, the first time they see you guys, it's a good one, because getting that first impression back is going to be hard if you lose it. Okay, so this is looking at the different stages of the funnel, and what this is good at showing is like the different types of content that is traditionally used throughout this funnel process, and the flywheel comes into this picture as well. But if you didn't know where to put certain types of content, taking a look at this graphic here will give you an idea of what content pieces fit at different stages of different buyer journeys. Did you have any extra input on there, Brandon?
No, yeah, I think that's really well said. And what I think about when I see this is, as an agent, as a salesperson for a software company, it's really about how many at-bats and how many opportunities can you create for yourself. So the top of the funnel is very important because you want to keep bringing in new leads, keep bringing in new prospects so that you can kind of nurture them and bring them down the funnel. They get familiar with you, they build trust with you, they see you as somebody that can handle a major transaction or purchase in their lives, and ultimately that leads to more deals, right? So we can tend to focus down here and get caught up in like, yes, obviously closing deals is very important, but we also need to make sure that we're filling the top of our funnel consistently and efficiently. And then what we're looking at right here is really just some content ideas for you guys to implement at various stages of the funnel. So how we think about it in marketing is at the top of the funnel, to be honest, no one really cares who you are at that point. They are out to search for the answer to their problem or to figure out the solution. What we want to do is have content that can answer those questions. As we move down the funnel is when we start to introduce who we are, tell our story, show them why we can be trusted to handle their business. And then bottom of the funnel content is really focused on reviews, actual property sites, meeting people in person, getting testimonials for your website, whether it be video or written. These play into closing more deals and also assist in the referral process as well. Okay, so let's jump into Google Business Profile and how to batch content. So we are picking one channel to go through today to kind of optimize. So you can kind of take these learnings and take these practices across social channels, let's say. The reason why we chose Google is we know, how powerful Google is. I was reading a stat the other day, a lot of you have probably heard it, but somewhere around 80% of all home searches start online. Yes, they might be using Bing or Yahoo, but the majority of folks are using Google. So it's where our customers, it's where our clients are, it's what people are familiar with. So how can we amplify and leverage all of the power of Google, harness it and use it to grow our business? One of the steps that, and one crazy thing to think about is you have Google Business Profile, you have Google Local Guides, you have Google Local Service, Google Search, you have YouTube, you have Gmail. They own such a large piece of real estate on the internet, that it's up to us as agents and marketers to kind of meet our customers where they are. Here's kind of just some highlights on. Obviously, we have full control over our Google accounts. We can optimize them constantly and consistently, post to them, add content to them, making sure that people are leaving reviews on our profiles, things of that nature. It's evergreen content, meaning, let's say, you know, just like Facebook, just like Instagram, as soon as you post something, it lives there forever. It's now searchable. So, you know, the time and effort that you take up front to produce content, you get to reap all the benefits on the back end because it's there forever. We can have one-to-many conversations. As a marketer, this is obviously very powerful. Yes, I can go knock on doors and have one-to-one conversations, but think about the time and effort that takes. What we want to do is have as many one-to-many conversations as possible. How can this message be amplified across hundreds or thousands of people, especially that are in my direct area where I work and I'm an agent? And then it just has the ability through SEO to attract customers. People search in, you know, best real estate agent where I live is San Juan Capistrano. Well, obviously I want to appear in that search, because we know, you know, not many people get to page 2. If you think about any recent Google searches you've done, are you ever getting to page 4? Probably not. So we need to be at or near the top of those search results. And then you also just kind of position yourself as a local authority. So when you start to review businesses in your area, when you start to, you know, talk to business owners and take a picture of a cup of coffee you had and leave a review, that all ties together with all of your other content on your Google profile. The more content you have, the more Google will tend to boost your posts. They see that you're kind of a thought leader in your space. And all of a sudden that algorithm all works together and all works to your benefit. And then these are just a few quick tips. I'm not going to spend too much time on these, but I was at a marketing conference recently and they brought up some really good points. Fill out everything possible. This is free SEO. So if Google, you know, has 25 fields that you can input and they let you write up to 1,000 words, but you only input 3 fields and you write 10 words, you're missing out on maximizing that space. Google will automate and send little automated reminders through emails and phone calls. This is their ongoing way to make sure that your business is legitimate and that you are, you know, working or not around the clock, but that you are being honest with your hours and your contact information. So if you don't, a lot of times Google will dock you and have a negative impact on your overall score. Don't lie about your hours. So I've seen some agents put, you know, we work 24/7. Well, you know, going off of that previous point, Google will try to call you at 2 a.m. or they will send you an email at 3 a.m. If you don't respond, it goes back to those negative points. So just be honest and the rest will take care of itself. In your Google profile, include your name, your team's name, and your location. We can provide like a few examples of how this might work. A lot of you might already be doing that today, which is awesome. Continue to add feed posts just like Facebook and Instagram. This is repurposing content that we'll get to on the next slide, but it's just as important to make sure that you're posting on Google, posting on Facebook, posting on Instagram, because you never know where where one of your prospects might be looking. And also you already have the content done. So The hard part is done. Now it's just a matter of making sure that other folks can see it, whatever medium or channels they're consuming that content. And then they have a thing called products, which is where you can include your listings, you can include your recent solds, local guides, etc. This all feeds into just kind of owning your local market when where your customers are at. Okay, so at that same conference that I mentioned, there was an agent who broke down, an agent who is in North Carolina, small town, about 50,000 people. He broke down his content strategy. He started 2021 with exactly 0 pieces of content. He knew that he was missing on a big opportunity. So what he did was he basically sat down at the first of the year and mapped out, how can I get this content done? What can I do? And, you know, he talked about, even after 3 months, no results. 6 months, he started to get more leads, more opportunities. After 12 months of consistently posting content every day, or almost every day, he ended up with over 300 pieces of content, 247 leads, 24 total transactions, and then 360,000 of gross commission. So that was all just from his content and Google efforts. It's not going to happen overnight. He also talked a lot about, and I think we get caught up in this too, is kind of the vanity metrics. Let's say we spend a couple weeks posting videos and, you know, everyone wants 1 million views on their video. But, you know, what he alluded to is he's had videos with a couple hundreds of thousands of views that got no concrete action from it. And he had a video with 19 views that he brought up specifically, 19 views. And what ended up happening, someone saw that video, thought of a neighbor or a friend, they shared that video with them, and all of a sudden that turned into a transaction for him. So just be mindful. Yes, you know, sometimes the views, you know, it might get caught in our head that it matters so much, but you really never know who's watching and when they're watching it. He went on to go ahead and break down his 4-week content cycle that he obviously stuck to for an entire year, and the results kind of speak for themselves. But what he would do every Monday, it doesn't matter what day of the week, you use a 4-week cycle, he would set aside 5 hours on Monday and knock out a bunch of content, changing outfits so it's looking like he's creating more videos. You know, there's no need to be perfect. This is the time to just get yourself on video, outline a few talking points. It doesn't need to be super high production quality. It can be an iPhone and a tripod and maybe a light, and that's it, right? You know, the important thing here is to just get the content done. He would spend the next week, the next Monday, for a few hours editing those videos. Early on, he was doing everything DIY. He eventually got to the point where he found a freelancer on Upwork, and all of a sudden that's another thing off his plate. He's firing off that film footage to the editor, who's then editing it. If you don't have that luxury right away, there are plenty of online courses. We actually, as we were doing this presentation, we realized it might be helpful for everyone to have a resource slide. So we will put that together and share that with everyone on this call today. But there's a lot of great free, easy to use resources that you know, that are out there that can definitely save you guys time. The third week, so that third Monday, he loads everything up into a social media scheduler. So there's Buffer, Hootsuite, Loomly. These are free tools that can accomplish what you guys need. He schedules out an entire month of content during those few hours. Boom, everything is now off his plate. He repurposes and schedules that across YouTube, across Google, across Facebook, across Instagram. So that one piece of content now becomes multiple and has various means of distribution. And then the fourth week, he basically starts all over again. He spends that fourth Monday brainstorming, what am I going to do that next Monday? Keep a list of running topics. I know, you know, a lot of times it can be overwhelming. Okay, what do I record? You know, we get hung up on that. I'm guilty of it as well. Keep a running list of topics. Look at what your competition's doing. You know, we don't need to reinvent the wheel here. Do some local business reviews, do some neighborhood tours. This agent actually used a skateboard, and he was riding around neighborhoods on a skateboard. His local audience loved that. So think about unique ways that you might be able to tour some neighborhoods in your area, show some market updates, do some buyer and seller tips. All of these things will go into, you know, helping your content strategy. And then I want to dive into paid ads a little bit. So I know there's probably a lot of ambiguity around how paid ads work, what they do. It can be a little daunting as an agent. You're responsible for marketing, sales, operations. You got, you know, on top of all of the client interfacing interactions. So there's a lot on your guys's plate. One of the things that I would always, you know, we would always preach this. Any marketer would tell you this as well. SEO, organic, long-term is going to pay, you know, huge ROI, massive dividends for your business. The problem with organic is it takes a lot of time. So one way to supplement those results in the meantime is with paid ads. And this is a really good quote right here. So you're going to either invest your time or your money to capture attention in today's market. The time piece can refer back to content and SEO. The money piece might be, you know, in reference to paid ads as one example. 3 advantages of paid traffic. You see the results immediately. So if you launch a campaign today, your ads will be serving that same day. You will be getting impressions, you will be getting clicks, you will be getting leads that come into your funnel. We know that the algorithms for Facebook and Google are extremely smart, almost creepy to a degree, right? We talk about something or we search something on the internet. What do we see? An ad later that night on a social media channel. But the point is, as marketers and as agents, we have insane control over who sees our ads, where they see them, and we can target an exact audience that we want to show those ads to, which is pretty powerful. And then the third, you know, there's obviously more than 3 advantages, but the third one is it's very easy to scale. So how the best way to kind of test and approach this is to perhaps start with a smaller budget, depending on what area you're in. That's going to be more competitive. Beverly Hills is going to be, you know, more expensive than St. Louis, as an example. But if you see what's working, you can go ahead and put more budget into that spend. Disadvantages: when you stop paying, you stop generating traffic. It can be tricky to get right. There are a lot of variables and campaign settings and optimizations that are required to have a positive ROI on a paid campaign. And then we will include a link to an article that we wrote called The Best Real Estate Facebook Ads. We'll send that over to you guys. And what it does is it just highlights some information on what your creative should look like, how you should be setting up your campaigns, making sure that your designs match your branding, so that you don't kind of feel like cheap or inauthentic. And then we're gonna look at 2 quick campaign ideas. This first one is a home valuation. Everyone here is familiar with what a home valuation does and what it looks like. This happens to be one of our clients here. And there's a couple of things I wanted to highlight for this specific campaign. The first is we have this page layout. It might be subtle, but everything above we want to have a user be able to take action above the fold on the page. So we see right here, a user, if they want to come here, they don't have to scroll to right here, although they can. There's multiple CTAs. Above the fold, they can go ahead and immediately take action with what they need. So sending traffic to a high converting page like this is always, it's basically a must. Mobile responsive. So if you saw the same ad on your phone, obviously it would look just as good. We're not going to have any bleeding of our content or copy. So most platforms will do that for you these days, but it is important to call out, because if somebody looks at it on their phone and half the page is off and they can't enter in their information, that's going to be a bad experience, and that's going to have a negative impact on your campaign. And then just making sure that your ad matches your messaging. How Facebook and stuff will feed more impressions to more users is they'll start with a small piece or a small segment of your audience. If people are responsive to that message, then what Facebook does is it opens it up and it starts to serve that ad to more people. One of the most important things is making sure that your ad matches your messaging. So this in very simple sterling manner, our ad would say something like, see what your home is worth in your area. It might sound mundane, but a lot of times we don't have our ads that match our messaging. And then this is another campaign that we wanted to highlight was a lead magnet. So yes, we can run campaigns that are more performance-based, or they're all about how can we try to generate those warm opportunities. But something that agents and marketers, should also be doing is going back to the top of the funnel activities. We want to give something away. We want to provide value to our users. And what we have here is a very high fidelity kind of, this is almost like an entire website to itself. But one of our customers, the Brightonback team, they created this pretty much a glorified landing page where people can come download this listing portfolio every quarter, and that obviously helps grow your database. It provides the user value, it brings awareness to your brand, and also these are top of the funnel leads. We know that it's going to take about 6 to 12 months to nurture them, but at the top of the funnel, they're getting this piece of content that they will find value in. That could lead them to signing up for your newsletter. That could lead them coming to your website, looking at your social media. Maybe they pick up the phone and call you. Maybe they come to an open house. You don't know when or where it's going to happen, but all you can do is just keep providing value to your customers. And then, okay, so Bally, I'm going to go ahead and pass this back to you for a quick chat on branding.
Absolutely. Thanks, Brandon. So building a brand, I think first it's important to just start with what branding isn't. It's not a logo, it's not a promise, it's not impressions to an ad campaign, in my opinion. It's reputation. A brand is a customer's gut feeling about a product or service or a company. People will gather whatever you throw at them and make something out of it. But the kicker is they're creating it, not you. And so whenever someone interacts with a product or a service, each one has a different opinion of the business. And from a marketer's point of view, we tend to get stuck and look at branding as something that we're doing. We're telling a story and making a pitch, but that's not branding. A brand is the result of that. Really what we want to think about is what happens in people's heads. What have we achieved? What is the reputation that we've created? And brand building really is about winning people's hearts and minds. Do the next slide. Awesome. So there's a thought exercise that we could do, and I narrowed it down to these 3 questions, and they're 3 open-ended questions, really. So like if we use the first one, for example, if your brand or business was a person, who would it be? Seems like a silly question, if the brand is you and your name, but as abstract as this question may seem, it can get the wheels turning to think outside of the box. of terminology and analytics, and more towards what the essence of your brand is. This allows you to provide a mission statement alongside like actual characteristics that can give others a sense of what your tone of voice is and your overall brand personality should be. And what would you like people to associate with your brand is another good one, because what perceptions or emotions do you want visitors to take away when they experience your brand? What do you want them to feel? A good way to go about this is to think about other brands that resonate with you. This is where a lot of insight and inspiration comes from. A lot of people reference Nike and these big sports brands or other luxury brands. Like, everyone has their favorites that they resonate with, and you can use some of that. They resonate with you for a reason. So use that as inspiration, use that as insight to not reinvent the wheel, but just apply some of those inspirations to your brand too. And then that last one, what do you like or dislike about your brand identity currently? This is always changing. It's not like if you come up with your brand guidelines, that's it forever. Things change, people change, opinions change. But this is where you can point to elements you align with, as well as, some of your pain points and challenges. So maybe the colors right now just aren't your vibe on your website, or some imagery just doesn't fit your aesthetic. Maybe you prefer minimal and more white space over busy. Now, this exercise can help identify what elements require immediate attention, and then what to prioritize for later. But the important thing is you want it to feel good. You want it to feel like it's an extension of you and your brand and your company. And then once you have that, you can, fill in the gaps. You likely already have your brand name and logo. And the overall goal really of this process is to make sure the key elements continue to carry through as you keep interacting with your audience, even beyond your website. Most people these days come to a website, then they leave straight away because they want to go somewhere that they feel more comfortable. It might be Instagram, it might be LinkedIn, it might be Medium, people, YouTube even, like, people have their favorite places that they like to hang out. And if you take them to your website, that's your hub, and then you make sure that the rest of your digital presence online fits that same aesthetic, then it creates that consistency of your digital presence across the entire internet. And imagine this, if somebody comes to your website, they're liking what they're seeing, what they're reading, you kick them off to YouTube because that's where they feel more comfortable. They click the button, they go to YouTube, and then everything is just a fail on YouTube. The banners aren't looking right, the colors aren't looking right, everything just is disjointed. It's very important these days to have a consistent and cohesive experience across the entire internet.
Yeah, that's a great point, Bali. And sometimes it's worth maybe doing an audit, right? And maybe we could see, I know, like in as luxury presence, as an example, we just updated our logo and some of our branding. The amount of effort that it then takes to go ahead and update YouTube banners and YouTube logos and Zendesk logos, it could be quite a heavy lift. But one, let's say you launched a YouTube channel 5 years ago and you haven't been back to it since you've updated your website. It might not be a bad idea just to go through all of your channels, make sure that everything is up to your standards and up to your liking, because as Bali alluded to, there is that omni-channel presence where people, expect that look and feel of your website to be the same as your Instagram, to be the same as your Facebook. So all of that consistency definitely goes a long way into how people can start to build trust with you and your brand.
Mm-hmm. And it goes against the notion of, like, we've been it's an SEO trick to try and keep people on your site for as long as possible. We want that. That's still a goal of websites, to keep people on the site and bouncing around at different pages. But going about it this way kind of frees you up from those restraints of, like, you don't have to keep people on your website if the rest of your digital presence is consistent. And there's multiple, then it just opens up different ways to just capture people and get them into your funnel. But once you have that thought exercise kind of mapped out and in your general brand vision and mission statement, the other things fit into place. Typography that fits your brand personality, colors that evoke your desired sentiments and imagery that tells your story. Everything just starts to fall into place once you have a clear understanding of what is that message and the vision and the mission statement that you're trying to put out.
Yeah.
And ultimately, though, I think people trust people in this day and age. You know, the notion that your brand is not what you say it is, but what other people say it is, dominates. That's why reviews on Google and other trusted platforms are so important these days. You know, interesting fact here, millennials and Gen Z are expected to make up 50% of the total global luxury market by 2025. That's just around the corner. You know, and these youngsters have been overexposed to aggressive marketing tactics for most of their lives. And that's just left them being tired and being so obviously sold to and deeply distrusting of corporations. Simply put, they trust peer recommendations over a company's website. And that's why influencer marketing is so big. And people are pretty good judges of character too. You know, if you're not genuine and the message you put out isn't authentic, and then that's just going to cause people to feel distaste towards your brand. I think Brandon mentioned it in one of the previous slides. Just be unapologetically you and build a tribe that champions your brand. It's better to have 500 diehard fans than 10,000 followers who just don't care and are probably bots anyway.
Cool, thanks, Bally. And so, okay, so these are some key takeaways that we're hoping to convey with you guys today. As we look towards 2023, we know that transaction volume might dip a little bit. Maybe agents have a little bit more time on their hands than they did the last year or two, when they're just like deal, like, you know, chickens running around with their heads cut off. If you find yourself having more time, find ways to produce content, you know, find ways to provide your past and future clients value. So be consistent, batch create, repurpose on all of those channels, be you. So, you know, that yes, there's the Ryan Serhants of the world, and obviously he does a very great job at branding himself, but you don't want to be Ryan Serhant, right? Find out, you know, figure out what makes you unique. The stat I remember that's coming to my mind is from some of those successful agents, about 10% of all their content or posts are just related to their hobbies or interests. So, you know, maybe 1 out of every 10, maybe 2 out of every 10 posts, whether that's, you know, you love dogs, or you love going hiking, or you surf, or you knit sweaters, whatever it may be. Find what makes you and lean into that, because especially when you boil it back down to a lot of these home searches are starting online. How is someone going to get to know you through a screen or through a device? The answer is probably, you know, they won't necessarily get to know you, but they can get a sense of who you are by, you know, the type of content and empathy that you show through that. And then just quickly for paid ads, give something away. So if you guys have a lead magnet or an ebook or a market report, maybe you don't and it needs refreshing, or you need a new piece of content, I would encourage everyone to go create that, have that ready before the end of this year, so that you can kick off 2023 testing and running some small paid ads and budgets. Go through, you know, maybe try to create 2 or 3 pieces of content, and you can have 3 different ad sets, and you can test those, build your database, but also understand that, you know, these leads are going to require nurturing. Think about in your own lives, when you see ads and you sign up for it, you sign up for a service, you might not be ready to go right away. These are, you know, these are the biggest decisions that someone's going to make perhaps in their whole life, selling or buying a house. It's going to take multiple touch points. It's going to take touch points, phone calls, text messages, emails, social posts. All of that goes together towards nurturing those leads and ultimately getting them down funnel. and then branding. So digital reputation. I'm probably butchering the quote, but there's a great Warren Buffett quote, and it's something along the lines of, it takes 20 years to build up your reputation and 20 seconds to tear it all down. So be mindful, take care of your clients, ask your happy clients for good reviews. If someone's unhappy with you and they leave a bad review, pick up the phone, try to make it right, try to rectify that situation. Be unique, have patience. Building a brand, if you think about your Nikes, your Amazons, these brands are not built overnight. They're not built in a year. They're built over the course of many years. But the best time to start taking those actions is today and right now. And then tell your story. People want to hear it. As humans, we flock towards storytelling. If you think about every 20-second commercial, every hour-long Netflix show, humans love stories. So find your story and tell it. And that will conclude the content portion of our webinar today. As we did mention, we will put together a resources slide. So we'll have some social schedulers, we'll have some content articles, anything else that you guys might like to see, we can include that as well. We'll also include our email addresses so that if you guys have any questions or want to reach out to us, you will have access to that. We're obviously passionate about this stuff. We love helping agents. We love marketing. So feel free to reach out. And let me go ahead and open up. Valley, are there any questions popping through, or anyone raising their hands?
We did have one question from Ryan a little bit earlier on.
Yeah.
He had a question about GBP and Google My Business and reviews being removed. Yeah. So Ryan, to answer that, in short, the answer is Google thinks that the reviews are either fake or that someone else has flagged the posts and provided a valid reasons why, based on Google standards, and that's why they think it should be removed. Fake can include like multiple reviews under the same IP address, like done in the same house or the same day, or brand new account, or the verbiage seems manufactured. Ultimately, we don't know why Google does what it does sometimes. But if there was like genuine reviews, and if you were affected by something like this, there are ways to reach out to Google and get that review back. But reviews these days are massively important, and I can understand why it's impactful.
Yeah, and Bally, really quickly, would you just touch on when you think the best time of the buying or selling process is to ask for that review from that client?
Yeah, so what worked for me, I don't know if Brandon mentioned my background when my mic was off in the beginning, but I used to work with one of the top agents and teams in Malibu and LA for about 6 years. And what worked for me and our team was to you have the review template that a lot of agents don't like sending out, because they feel like a lot of our clients don't want to leave a review. But there is a time that you can do it, and what worked for us was right after contingencies had been removed, so like everyone's happy, no one can really back out the deal really, and they're not in the process of like moving into a house or moving to a new state or something like that. It's just everyone's in their happy mode, and sending off that review at that time is likely that you're going to get it back. Once things start getting busy, the likelihood of getting a review back is probably going to be minimal. But having a template ready to go and having it sent as part of your checklist, like your deal transaction checklist, after contingencies have been removed, seems to work well.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Karen, I am just responding to your question right now. And let's see, is Franz okay, so it sounds like so much to do. Where would you start? Bally, maybe you could take this question on. Obviously, yes, there is a lot to cover. What would be your highest value activity, Bally? Would you kind of start with polishing up your YouTube channel, content creation? Let's hear it.
Yeah, I think lean in on what feels good and natural to you. You don't have to do everything. Like Brandon said, like if you need two things. You need both of these things to make things happen. You need trust and you need competency. Trust is the brand building side of it. Competency can easily be shown, with previous sold listings or previous deals that you've done. That's just proof sitting on your website that you've sold a house. If you have an interest, I had a friend who's into cars, and he just posted everything about cars on Instagram. That was his channel. He loved being on Instagram. He loved posting cars. His website was a mix between cars and real estate. Those were his interests, and he got deals off of it because of that car community. That's really what he tapped into. That was his niche. That was his bread and butter. He tapped into the people that were into cars. They realized that he was a real estate agent, and then everything flowed from there. I had another client who flipped her website and put her blog front and center, versus having her face and listings front and center. It was a lifestyle blog. It was all about food and places to eat and go see musicians and stuff, and that was what she was into. So she leaned in on the blogging because she liked to write, she liked taking photographs, and that was her channel. So I think whatever feels good to you. Some people don't like being on camera. Writing feels best. Others don't mind shooting a quick video after they leave a coffee shop. You'll know once you start tapping into different content pieces what you enjoy doing, and I would double down on that.
Double down. Yep, exactly. And I would say just to finish up on that, what might be helpful, Franz, is I would almost create like a little checklist or a little to-do list. And then you could almost have a second column that's like a level of effort. Is this a low, medium, or high level of effort? Once you see that list, maybe it's that you start knocking off the low effort activities and you start getting some momentum, and it's like, okay, I just set up my YouTube page. Fantastic. It has my branding. Now, you know what? I'm going to spend a couple hours brainstorming topics for a couple weeks worth of videos. Check. Now we get to our high, a lot of energy tasks where it's at the actual recording. Well, if you start, you've built up that momentum by taking care of some of the smaller tasks, then you can find yourself heading in the right direction. I think it all boils down to just like creating good habits, making sure that your calendar and your time is very valuable. So if you put on an hour of, I'm going to write a blog post, hold yourself accountable and do those activities.
If it was me, if people were like, I enjoy everything, where should I focus my efforts? Video, 100%. Have a running list in your notes app or wherever you can, just keep a list of questions and concerns and pain points that people are that you're coming across every day when you're talking to your clients. You should I buy or sell a house right now? Is this area a good area? What do you think of that coffee shop? Like whatever pain points that you can talk to on a video, a 30-second video, just your phone propped up against a coffee cup or something. That drumming up that kind of content, quick, short videos, will be the most bang for your buck in terms of time and money. Because off of that one video, there's so much that can be done. If you have assistants or another marketing team, they can do a lot with that one video. They can take that video, transcribe it into a blog post. They can take that video, chop it up, put it on social media. If you're tackling YouTube and website together, those are the two biggest search. Google and YouTube are the two biggest search engines in the world. It's the same. It's Google. You have to hit them both from the same time and get exposure that way.
Fantastic. Let's see. I am going back. Okay, so Shelby, yes, we will absolutely be having more of these webinars. Tony, I will. Let's see. So Tony's question was around how do we join the Building Your Presence series. We will also follow up with the resource for how to join that. I am on our homepage really quickly. Bally, you don't have the BYP URL handy, do you?
No, I don't. We can find it. Really
Okay.
quick.
Yeah. So that's a great series. That's run by our senior social media and community manager. Her name is Kennedy. Those sessions are bi-weekly, so there probably won't be one next Thursday for Thanksgiving, but definitely the following week. What she does, and you can go back, there's been about 4 or 5 of them. She will walk you through especially related to social and branding tactics, and also have playbooks that you can follow along and go ahead and bring back in and execute for your business. Okay, I know we're coming up on time here. We absolutely will hang out and answer any more questions if they, keep surfacing. So feel free to keep popping questions in, raise your hand and we could bring you up. Let us know. We'll give it a couple more minutes, and definitely appreciate everyone's time today. Just making
Okay.
sure that I'm kind of scrolling back through and not missing anything.
Yeah, Lisa has raised her hand.
Oh, cool.
You want to come up, Lisa?
Let's get Lisa up here. Hold on one sec. Bally, do you have hold on one sec. My Zoom toolbar is invisible, so I don't have access to, but can you bring her up, Bally, or do you need me to?
Let's see if we can do this. Unless you feel comfortable putting it in the chat, Lisa, it's up to you.
Oh, there we go. Okay.
Yeah.
There we go. Lisa, let's bring you up.
Hi.
Hiya.
Hello. I stay in as attendee. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm wondering, so if we did something like, say, on Instagram, would we make sure the same thing went on YouTube? Would we put it all across all the social media, the same thing? Like if I did something on, let's just say, a horse, and a horse
Yep.
with the pasture and a great home, would I put that across the whole board with everything, or would I still mix it up?
Yes. So there are 2 schools of thinking. So one, I think, let me make sure I understand you correctly. Let's say you have a nice, awesome picture of a horse and he's running through a field. Would you post that same picture on Instagram, Facebook, and everywhere else so you can post static images? The answer,
Correct.
LinkedIn, let's say the answer to that question would be yes. What you would want to do is, so yes, it is the same content. What you want to do for each of those channels is make sure that your specs or the image size match the best practices of those channels. What I mean by that is Instagram is 1080 by 1080, so it's a perfect square. LinkedIn is more of like a rectangle approach. So you just want to make sure that the content kind of matches the look and feel for those channels. You can do that with a tool you can easily do that with a tool like Canva, which we can include in the resources. Free,
Okay.
very user friendly. What you will also want to do to take it one step further is the actual written piece is depending on who your audience is. What the best practice would be is to vary the written piece ever so slightly. So if we think about LinkedIn as an example, it's business professionals. We might have our copy that's going to be a little more buttoned up, a little more formal. That's going to be our LinkedIn voice. On Instagram, that horse is running free. We might have a little bit more fun with it and maybe show off a little bit more of our personality. Let's say that same video is on YouTube. We're going to want to write a description in our YouTube video. By the way, descriptions in YouTube videos are SEO, they're a part of Google or YouTube search engine, meaning if you pick out like a Tom Ferry or a Ryan Serhant and you go look at their video descriptions, they're almost as long as blog articles. That's because every word in there is searchable by the YouTube search engine. So that same horse video, instead of just a quick snappy one-liner on Instagram, we might go through the trouble of saying, here's my horse, Jiminy, and you know what, his favorite food is apples. You know what I mean? So it's almost like a mini blog post in that sense. So long story short, vary it up ever so slightly across each channel, but the graphic or the design can be the same. Match the specs to the channel, and then change up your caption ever so slightly to take care of that audience.
Okay, that makes sense.
Does
Thank
that
you.
make sense?
Yes,
Okay,
thank
yeah,
you.
you bet.
And you know, just to play off of that too, like if we just want to get going and kind of start posting on multiple channels, it's safe to say you can just record or take a portrait image or video. Most of these platforms are pushing short reels type of content as well. So YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, you could probably knock all three out with the same video.
Yes.
But yeah.
There's a lot of schools of thought out there that I've been seeing some of the top agents and some of the top coaches doing, where they will, let's say, have a guest for 30 minutes. They will spend 30 minutes talking to that person. No one's watching 30-minute videos these days, or if we do, they're very few and far between. What they will then do is take that 30-minute video and create 4 to 5 mini videos of the, you know, the most exciting talking points during that video. Now all of a sudden you have more pieces of content that you can go ahead and distribute or post across your channels. That is obviously time consuming, but you know, one strategy I heard recently is, in your local town, in your community, go interview a restaurant owner that's been there for 40 years. Go find an ex-mayor of your city that moved in the 60s when there was just 500 people living here. And you could find those types of characters or unique people in your communities, have simple conversations with them, record them, and then all of a sudden you can find some interesting tidbits on, maybe it's the history of how, you know, our city hall was created and took shape after a certain event. But the point is, you can, you know, those little pieces of content, not only do they establish yourself as like a local marketing expert, people start to see your face. People start to realize, like, you know, you're honest and authentic, and you have a voice and you have a foothold or a stronghold in your community. So I thought that was very interesting. It could be something for you guys to test out in the coming year. Maybe reach out to some folks and maybe target 10 to 15 business owners, restaurants, whatever it may be. Send them an email. Going back to value, we're not asking them for anything. We're not asking them to, you know, for money or for referrals or anything like that. We simply want to hear their stories. And by doing that, we might be able to amplify their message and also your business's message at the same time. Well, cool. I think, are there any final questions, or are we good to jump?
I don't see any more questions in the chat, but yeah, I think we're good in the chat.
Okay, awesome. That sounds great. Okay, so thank you everyone for joining us today. We will shoot over the recording, all of the resources that we mentioned. Be on the lookout for future luxury presence webinars, and have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your week.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.